So, welcome back to another episode of A Plate Full of Insights. I am your host today, Andrea Shekel. I am so glad you're tuning into this episode. This is an awesome episode because fitness is everywhere. We get so many messages bombarded from everything of don't do this, buy this, use this gadget, and all the promises. We hear it just from everyday people to all the way to women, especially during pre and or perimenopause and menopause. So this is a great topic, and I am so excited to have both Shara and Tassa joining today to uncover all this. What's true, what's not. So if this is your first time joining us, thank you so much. We hope you're going to enjoy this. If you've joined us before, thank you so much. And let's just get right into it. I think the biggest thing, when we think about fitness, we've got gym, we've got, it's also the kind of time of year where people are like, oh, you need to buy this equipment, all this fancy equipment. So that's kind of the first myth that I kind of actually wanted to get to of like, do we really need fancy equipment? Let's start there.
Man, I'll jump in here. The fancy equipment one for me, like I've been in the industry for over 20 years and I've seen so many fads and trends when it comes to equipment. And from weighted vests to vibration plates to smart dumbbells to man, there's just been so many of them. Some of them are very good. Some of them actually can help, but I mean, I will always say simplicity wins. There's the basic and most basic fitness equipment will always work for you long term. Can they help in the long term with adding intensity? Yes. Adding intensity, adding variety, adding fun. If it's all about keeping you engaged in fitness, then I'm all for it. But just understand that there are no magic solutions with with this equipment. There's nothing groundbreaking or special about them. They're not listen, if there was something groundbreaking or special about them, I would have sold a piece of fitness equipment 20 years ago and I would be on a yacht in the Mediterranean somewhere. But there's just nothing groundbreaking about them. I say if it helps you stick to things a little bit longer and it adds some variety and fun, go for it. I think the biggest trend in terms of equipment in 2025 is the weighted vest. That is everywhere right now, especially being marketed to women in perimenopause and menopause. Uh, is it does it do what it says? It depends on who's marketing it, right? Some people are marketing it in the menopause space as it's going to help you build muscle and bone density, but the research is very, very clear that it does not. Any research that they state was done on women wearing the vest while they were doing jumping, which is quite significant than going for a walk, or significantly different than going for a walk with a weighted vest. Will the weighted vest help you increase your cardiovascular? Yes, because you're going to be working harder, especially if you're walking up a hill and walking faster, definitely. But it's not going to help you build bone density and muscle. And it's unfortunate that that's what's being marketed. And it's very unfortunate that women are buying into it. But I'm not going to be mad at you if you have a weighted vest. It's still a very good tool for you if it keeps you working and walking and engaging in fitness. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and to add what Tashara said, like there really is no substitute for the benefits of resistance training. Like if you want to build muscle and maintain your bone density, you have to be lifting weights. You have to be doing resistance training. And unfortunately, the myth of just throwing on a weighted vest and going for a walk isn't really that equal substitution.
Facts.
I think that's really important. And both of you mentioned a really key piece that we've talked about in other podcasts of there's lots of claims, but then actually when you dig deeper into the research, that's not what it shows. Or there's these nuances of like, Shara, to your point, right? Like this jumping with a weighted vest. It's very different than, yeah, going on a walk with a weighted vest. So I think that's really a key point too, is even in the fitness industry, we see these same kind of claims that are not backed by science.
Or they cherry pick. They cherry pick, right? They make it so that the claim, yeah, it's researched back, but they're not being honest about what they're cherry picking from the research to support what they're trying to market, right?
And let's roll into marketing. And both you kind of mentioned this, and this is whether we want it to be a hot topic or not, is around women's health. And with menopause, the marketing of that seems to have exploded, both in the nutrition, but also in the fitness to a point where, yeah, how do we, what is the myth around that? For women, buy this, buy this, buy this, solve all your perimenopause, menopause problems.
Yeah, I'm in menopause, so my algorithm is all things menopause. So, it's frustrating because a lot of the myths that they're perpetuating out there is you can't lose fat over 40, or you need hormone specific workouts, or my least favorite of all of them is do this workout to lose your menopause belly. And it's just wrong. It's bad, and it's bad information, and it's just a myth that you need something specific for a certain phase in your life. Exercise needs to be geared around what your goals are, not your hormone profile. Unfortunately, that is just a huge myth. And what does change in menopause and midlife is our lifestyle. Is Yeah, our hormones are changing, but that leads into more fatigue and brain fog and muscle and joint soreness and depression, anxiety, and that makes following lifestyle habit change a lot harder. So the marketers will have you believe that managing your weight, or whatever, managing menopause and midlife comes from a fat blasting supplement, or a menopause supplement, or menopause workout that's going to help you, which is just wrong. And also, when it comes to marketing, the thing that you have to remember is what is being marketed to me versus what is being marketed to someone, say like Tassa, at in our age differences, is going to be very different based on your algorithm and what you're interacting with and your age range. So you have to remember that. I'm sure Tassa, what is being marketed to you right now in your age range?
Well, just like high rocks and like running ultra marathons and doing all that intense stuff. Cause when you're like, in your 20s, that's the time to do all that stuff. So it really is just like Shara said, completely different in your age group and who you are, because they know that they can get you. And I think the big problem with menopause and women's health in general is there is a big gap in the knowledge. And so that leaves space for a lot of people to kind of come in and take advantage of the lack of research, the lack of evidence, the lack of, you know, clinicians pushing forward good messaging about what to eat, how to exercise. So it really becomes this kind of cash grab in for people in this vulnerable different time of their life.
You nailed the vulnerability, right? Like marketing will hit your insecurities first and foremost. We're already in menopause feeling crappy about ourselves, and now we're being told that we have menopause belly and need to do something about it, right? Or this is the only way you're going to feel better. And it is astonishing the amount of marketing right now around perimenopause and menopause. And women are getting more and more confused. I'm not mad at the fact that we're talking about it, which is fantastic, because like I said, 20 years in the industry, the last 2 years, the amount of perimenopause and menopause talk is insane compared to 20 years ago. Nobody was even talking about it. So there's that, and the talk of women's health in general. But there's so much disparity, and it's just everybody is preying on the marketers, and the influencers are preying on our insecurities as we feel crappy through this phase of life. And then in Tassa's age range, they're just marketing to insecurities in general with body image, and marketing these ideals of what fitness should look like and what your body should look like. So, and fitness and exercise is very personal. It is different for everybody, but they will hit you right in the heart where it hurts the most, and then that's where your algorithm will go.
Absolutely. And I think what gets annoying with those fitness influencers is, they found something that works for them individually. And then they think that because it worked for them, they can, it's the rule, it's the be all end all to exercise. So I think that that's kind of where we get a lot of misinformation.
I kind of want to pivot on this because both of you kind of talked about the expectations, right? Of like, we have the numbers out there, we've got the expectations, and then you've got somebody at home. And Sherry, you talked about, right? We are sedentary. Like, that's, if anything, that's going to be our biggest problem to date, not the exercise component, but it's the sedentary piece. And there's kind of the mentality that I even see with my clients of like, well, if I'm not even doing 20 minutes, like what's the point? Like I might as well not even bother. Or if I'm not even doing it like this, like what's the point? We kind of get stuck of like, if it's not done exactly how we think it's supposed to, or we've heard it's supposed to, then kind of what's the point? So what do you say to those people? Because like that's a real thing of like, well, it's not it.
I think it's funny because I just lectured about this at the ACLM conference, because that is one of the things that is really misunderstood is well, because there was a video of some influencer, or I think it was even a doctor or something, and said walking is an exercise. And it was just like, are you kidding me? In a day and age where we're having a sedentary behavior crisis, you're telling people that walking is an exercise? Walking is can be both physical activity and exercise. It's about the intensity. So, and the duration and the goal. So, exercise is purposeful with intent, with a fitness outcome or performance outcome, where physical activity is just random and spontaneous, and keeping your body away from that sedentary behavior. So, you can go for a stroll with your dog, which is physical activity, or you can go for a brisk walk, keeping your heart rate elevated for a certain duration, and that's going to give you a different outcome than the physical activity of walking your dog. So is it exercise? Abso-freaking-lutely. And I get so angry at this because if anything that we have to start thinking about when it comes to exercise is making it accessible. And if walking is all you have accessibility to, then it is 100% going to do something for you. There's research, there's been tons of research on walking, and even 4,500 steps a day can decrease all cause mortality by 21%. And for a lot of people that don't have trackers, because you've all heard that 10,000 steps is the magic number, 10,000 steps was created by a marketer from Japan in the 60s to market a pedometer. Do you need 10,000 steps? No, you do not. 7,500 is where the benefits kind of level off. But like I said, 4,500 can decrease all cause mortality by 21%. And if you don't have a tracker, no problem. Think about a 10-minute walk being about 1,000 steps. So if you want to do a 10-minute walk and get in 1,000 steps, fantastic. But man, I get so upset about the walking debate because it's just, for some people, it's all they have access to, and we have to make exercise more accessible to more people because we're dealing with a crisis of too much sedentary behavior.
And I think if you have people who are on TikTok, on social media, they don't really necessarily have the same training that Cher and I do, where it is just making sure that everybody can exercise, not just your specific bubble of fit, strong people who are running marathons, who are, in bodybuilding. Because sure, maybe they want a more intense exercise, but for the everyday person, walking is so adequate and so perfect for what individuals need. And I think that by fear mongering around walking not being enough, it's just adding to that shame and stigma that people are already maybe facing when trying to start exercising. So it just all around is a myth that if anyone ever brings it up after listening to this, you can immediately shut it down and be like, walking is enough. Just do what you can. Just get out there and get moving. And another thing too is when we focus on the steps is, those fitness trackers, the pedometers aren't really 100% accurate. I don't even think they're 80 to 90% accurate. So if you focus on hitting this step, you may not even be doing that. So while if, 10,000 steps is your goal, it gets you motivated, perfect, but it just try to add more movement to your day when you can, park a little further, try to take the stairs. It sounds so cliche, you probably hear it all the time, but it works, and those steps do add up more than just, trying to hit a certain number.
Yeah, I agree, Tessa. And for some people need a number to hit, right? They need a goal, and that's fine. Just understand that, yet you're right, the trackers are not 100% accurate. Don't don't live and die by your tracker. If it becomes it becomes an obsession. It's not healthy. Use it as a way to say, "Hey, I need to get off my butt and move more." Right? Use it as a way to remind you to get off your butt and move more. And walking can be that very thing.
Absolutely. 10,000 steps definitely is never a bad thing, right? Nobody's gonna slap you on the wrist if you hit 10,000 steps, right? But it doesn't have to be the be all end all, like Cher said. And if it's your main focus and what gets you up in the morning, that's okay too, right?
You know, the funny thing too, Tessa, you mentioned is like some of these influencers. talking about what they do in a day and what their workout is. And I would say that not everybody has the same 24 hours in the day. And what an influencer does, that's their job, is to actually look good on social media. So while they're getting up at, whatever time of the day and their whole entire job is to work out, that is, why they look a certain way, because that is their job. So being more real about what they're marketing to you and understanding what their life looks like versus your life they're two very different lives.
That's a really great point. A lot of those videos are fake, right? They say that they're getting up at 5 o'clock, but maybe they're getting up at 9 o'clock. Like, you don't know. A lot of their bodies, they say that they reached naturally, but they're getting Botox, filler on steroids. Like, a lot of those influencers have been busted for taking steroids, right? And then turning around saying to the camera, hey, this is my all natural body I got from, doing my Pilates, right? Which isn't necessarily the truth, right? But how would we know otherwise? So just circling back to what Andrea said of like, think about what's being told to you, think about, why it's being told to you and make your decisions accurately from that.
I kind of want to pivot on this because both you kind of talked about the expectations, right? Of like, we have the numbers out there, we've got the expectations, and then you've got somebody at home. And Sherry, you talked about, right? We are sedentary. Like, that's, if anything, that's going to be our biggest problem to date, not, the exercise component, but it's the sedentary piece. And there's kind of the mentality that I even see with my clients of like, well, if I'm not even doing 20 minutes, like, what's the point? Like, I might as well not even bother. Or if I'm not even doing it like this, like, what's the point? We kind of get stuck of like, if it's not done exactly how we think it's supposed to, or we've heard it's supposed to, then kind of what's the point? So what do you say to those people? Because like, that's a real thing of like, well, it's not it.
I love this one, Andrea, because um I I believe in lowering the bar of our expectations and finding the lowest hanging fruit. And we hear this enough is, yeah, if I can't do, it's that perfectionism, right? If I can't do 30 minutes, I can't do any, it's not worth it. And I go back to this analogy about finances. If you invest $0, how much will you gain from that investment? Zero. But if you invest $10, i.e., maybe even 10 minutes of movement, you will compound that $10. It's better than nothing. And a lot of that is really hard to get through to people, that better than nothing mentality, because they think no pain, no gain, go hard or go home, all or nothing mentality. And that perfectionism gets you nowhere fast. So like I said, I just did this lecture on movement snacks, which is one of my favorite thing. And I think I've talked about it before, but it's just the ability to move your body throughout the day in 10-minute increments. And going back to what you said about sedentary behavior, we sit more than ever. We have food delivered, we have drive-throughs, we couch rot, we everything is based on sitting, and our bodies are suffering, our minds are suffering. So how do we do that? How do we start? Like, full disclosure, I went from owning a gym active all day to now I'm sitting at a desk all day and my body was angry. And it's just like, this is crazy that the majority of the population is actually going through this. So breaking up your day into 10-minute movement snacks, doing, if you work from home, go and do some laps, pull out the vacuum for 10 minutes, go clean out a room. Like Tassa said, park farther away. If you take the bus to work, get off one stop earlier. I park as far as I can in a parking lot away. I do an extra lap in the grocery store. I On breaks at work, instead of just going and scrolling, I go and do vacuuming. I have a dog, so might as well get the vacuuming in. Go upstairs, fold some laundry, right? It's like 10 minutes of getting your body out of that sedentary nature and just focusing on moving, no matter what it looks like. Like, that's physical activity. That's spontaneous, random. Going for a walk in the summer, I'll go for a walk. I have a walking pad as well, but even those little 10-minute bouts of movement have been proven to improve cognition, improve decrease blood pressure, improve circulation. I feel better after moving my body. Even a 10-minute mobility flow in between at the break at work is a great idea.
I really want to focus on movement snacks. I used to be on my feet all day. I was a varsity athlete, so literally exercising for like 5, 6 hours a day. And now I'm just sitting at a desk all day. So even though I'm still exercising in the morning for an hour, it doesn't negate the fact that I then park my butt in a chair from 8 a.m. till I go to bed, which you lie down all night. So taking those breaks and really standing up, and it's even just doing, 20 squats, going to take the garbage out when you can, doing those little breaks does end up being so huge. And I think that as a society, it's kind of hard to spin that mindset of something is better than nothing, but it really, really is. If you only have 10 minutes, even it's you're waiting for your rice to cook, while you're brushing your teeth, can you do calf raises? But just trying to get some sort of routine, 10 minutes of movement, trying to get the heart rate up as best as you can. Maybe if you have the capability, you try to sprint up and down your stairs 2 times, right? Like it's just those little breaks. And I had a prof who would always say, like, if I can't get any movement in, she would do this thing, a 1 minute high intensity. So I don't exactly know what the workout was. I think it was on YouTube, but she would just pull it up and go through it. And she's like, it gets your heart rate up, it gets your blood pumping, and it just kind of gets you going. And she said it was 1 minute. So I think, it's just about finding what works for you and what little movements you feel comfortable adding into your day, and just really trying to be consistent about doing it, right? Because if you listen to this and you go do it tomorrow, great, that is better than nothing. But what are you really going to do day in and day out, right? What's that go to movement snack that you have? Is it doing, 30 squats in your office? Is it walking around or going outside for a break, right? Just trying to really open your mind and be more creative about the movement that you can add into your day.
Love it.
I love that, Tessa. I also love, when we think about our brain shifts and what our brain thinks it can and cannot do. And Tessa, like, there's a big difference to being like, can I give up 1 minute? Right? Like, we can always find 1 minute, 2 minutes. Sometimes all of a sudden we get in our brain of like, oh, 15 minutes, I don't know. 20, 30 minutes, that feels a little bit out of reach. So I love the like, we aren't asking for a lot here for our listeners. We are saying, 1 minute, anything to fill that fitness account and just get moving. So I think that's a really good takeaway from both of you.
If you kind of just start moving, you'll find that you're okay to stay moving. Like I'm sure Shara can attest, but starting is the hardest part. So if you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to do an hour-long workout today, but I can't do it. Can you do 5 minutes? Because like again, 5 minutes is better than the hour. And maybe after your timer goes off after 5 minutes, you'll be like, you know what? I'm fine. I can do my workout, right? So it is so much better than nothing.
That's a little trick that I have has said in the past is set a timer for 5 minutes, and do whatever you can in that 5 minutes. If in that 5 minutes is up, then you're done. You're done. You have 5 minutes in. If you're like, man, I can do another five, more than likely you'll do another five because it's like Tassa said, that starting part, we tend to get into our heads and negotiate. And you have to, your feelings aren't facts. So just stop negotiating with yourself and start moving forward.
Okay. So the last kind of myth I kind of wanted to talk about, and full disclosure, we are a digital health tech company, so we do a lot in the digital space, a lot around digital components. But then we kind of have this switch over to where things like wearables, and we're getting things with data all the time, and that's leading into the fitness aspect of it, right? And we're getting all this data through all of these wearables, and um, yeah, how do we balance that between these messages that you guys are talking about, right? Because we're kind of, it sounds like, pulling it back to the basics of like, we're just asking you to move, whatever that looks like, just move. But then we're still, yeah, how do we take our today's world but also merge it with a digital place that we can find some balance? Do either of you have any thoughts on that one?
I think wearables and the digital part, it's the future. It's not going anywhere. So it's not for everybody, and that's fine. If you are a wearable user, you have to remember that it is there to guide you. Like I said earlier about the trackers, it's like as long as it doesn't become obsessive. So you can't change what you don't know. So that's the one thing that wearables can be is it brings awareness. It brings awareness, sometimes accountability for many because, like the Apple Watch closing your rings or something like that will push a little bit of that accountability and then that leads into consistency. So there's a lot of positives with the wearables, but I've also seen some negativity with it. Like I said, the obsession where you become so obsessed with it. It's it's you're not even focused on your health anymore. You're focusing on the data with what the wearable says, and not trusting your body and not trusting what your intuition says. And it's taking away that internal um voice in your head that says, my wearable says I can work out today, but I'm not feeling really good, but I should still work out. Right? Again, it's can take that away from you. So again, I think it should be something that guides you, um but doesn't but and use it as a way for awareness, but not obsessively. Not obsessively, because that's then you'll go down the dangerous path of you won't be recovering properly. We got to learn to follow our intuition and listen to our bodies, um, and use critical thinking.
I think that the wearables provide a nice sense of community too. With the Apple Watch, you can see how, if your friends close their rings and check other people's status. I know if I have my watch and I go for a run, it like automatically uploads to Strava where everyone can see your runs and your pace and your time, right? So I think that there is a lot of community to that, but then it also may breed that competition and that, is there a point in doing a workout if you're not wearing your watch, right? And I think that, like Cher said, it just becomes this obsession. And, who are you working out for? Like, you're adding those minutes to your exercise bank for yourself, for your health, your longevity, your muscle strength and function, not to beat your friend or your parent or your significant other, right? And if that helps motivate you, perfect. Like, everybody has what kind of gets them going and what gets them moving, but just, really taking away your why for movement. And some days that competition will push you when you need a push, but if that's what's driving you day in day out, I also don't necessarily think that that's the healthiest. So really just trying to balance that need for community with your wearable, but also your need for self at the same time, which I don't really think there is a clear-cut answer to.
Yeah, I think both of you brought up um, really great points around that because it is at the end of the day, yeah, who are you using it for? Why are we using it? What are we getting from it? Is it something that's helpful or is it kind of harmful? And we see that with all types of digital data because those watches or whatever, the Aura rings or whatever those kind of things, like it can give data around everything. And I think even both of you mentioned we still don't even know the accuracy of those either, right? There's still that margin of error, just like what we saw with the pedometers, right? We are going to still see that in the digital. So kind of, take it as it is, use it as it is, but then kind of make sure we're checking in on, yeah, is it still being helpful? Is it not? Is this driving a feeling or changing that mental health aspect of it, of what you're getting from it?
You just made me think of the accuracy part. It can give you baseline, right? And one of the things it can help is watching you improve, right? So watching the improvements can be very motivating, but it can also be very addicting. So that's when you, like Tassa mentioned, you could lose your why because you got into this to use the wearable so that it keeps you accountable and helps get you going, but then all of a sudden it's all you care about. But I think it's important for the one thing I do like about it is progress and being able to see trends, and for you to be able to see, well, I'm trending down right now. Why am I trending down? Oh, I'm not sleeping well. Oh, I haven't been eating well. So that makes you inquire as to why you're trending down and maybe pull back and say, I need to figure this out. So that's where the positive part can come in, as long as it doesn't completely become obsessive and also um, make you feel bad about yourself, because that's the other part of it, right? Like your self-worth can be really attached to what your wearable says, and you don't want to have, your value tied to what a piece of um tech says that is not highly reliable.
I think that's a good
No,
point
well
to end
said.
on. Very well said. Um, okay, before we wrap this up, I'm going to give each of you guys, yeah, kind of a minute. It's like, so we talked about lots of myths, facts. We busted a lot, trying to rearrange quite a bit of them. Um, what's kind of, yeah, going into I don't know, the new year, we'll see what trends come in. Who knows what's going to show
uh,
up? What do we want to say to our listeners? How can we leave them with a buyer beware? What's our biggest thing you want to have people get out of this?
Simplicity works. It doesn't have to be complicated. Behavior change and adding exercise and fitness to your life is not easy, but it can be simple. And if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Save your money on stuff that we know that has been around for years and years and years that works, and you don't need fancy equipment. You don't need fancy wearables. Um, Again, simplicity. I think it's however you move your body, however you enjoy moving your body will work when you stick to it long term. And I always love to tell people is, where do you see yourself in 5 years when it comes to fitness? And understand that the journey is never going to be linear. It's going to be up and down because our life happens in phases. And maybe one part of your life you're going to love lifting weights, and maybe the next part you're going to love running. But as long as you're alternating between whatever you love and you continue to move your body, it all compounds for the future you.
Absolutely. I would echo that. Stick to the basics. 150 minutes of your cardio and your at least 2 resistance training a week. Like if you can just do that, you'll be so set and get those benefits that you are hoping to see for the long term, right? It's not about what you can do to lose the most weight in the most amount of time, but what can you do and sustain for the rest of your life, right? Because your fitness journey is never ending. So how can you make that enjoyable and make that the case. Doing your best to try to filter out external information and all these kind of ads and ploys to get you to buy different things for yourself, for anybody else. Just really try to tune it out. Do what you do what you enjoy, because your fitness journey, like Shara said, it's a lifelong journey. So there really is no point in trying to optimize it or make it super intense or crazy for 2 months if you're not sustaining that long term. So find what you like, find what you enjoy, and keep it simple.
I love that we ended on both consistent messages around consistency, simple, bringing it back to basics, but enjoyment. I think we forget a lot about that in health and lifestyle of like it's like, oh, it's got to feel like a punishment. So, right, the no pain no gain component that comes with it. But activity can be incredibly enjoyable. It can bring community, it can bring connection, it can bring other aspects that we don't think about that impact health, like even just being outside. I'm a big one of like, I need that activity to be outside for the connection component. So thinking about it on those bigger levels too, and are we enjoying it? Because we want to make sure consistency, right? Both of you talked about consistency. So we have done some awesome stuff. This is not going to be the end of these conversations. Unless we somehow hit everybody around to buy into this, it's still going to be a thing. So I foresee more episodes talking about this for sure. So I thank both of you for joining. I do know that we have some other podcasts with both Tassa and Shara speaking about fitness. So I'm going to encourage you to kind of have a look at those as well. Go back, listen to them, share with somebody who maybe needs to hear this too. If you bought into this concept and you know somebody who hasn't, yeah, send it. We love to know that our stuff is reaching other people. But also we want to hear from you. So please comment. Is there a fitness trend that you've heard about that you want us to hop on and talk about? We would love to do that. We want to hear from you. So we thank you both Shara and Tassa for joining us, and stay tuned for another episode. Have a great day.